Great people and decent processes can do way more than great processes and very average people.
It's not about being a bad salesperson. It's a system and a process. And if you don't understand how important processes are in business and in the sales cycle, it's very difficult to be successful.
I feel like every salesperson has that moment. They either get the commission check, they close their first decent sized deal, and they're like, oh, okay. Like
most people quit right before they're going to see that success.
Welcome to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez, COO of 5, 7 to 8 figure businesses at Pineda Company with Ryan Pineda. Today, I have my guest, Dan Z of Alpha Army. This guy is the direct sales champion. So he is so excited to go talk about everything direct sales, marketing, scaling. He has an 8-figure business, and we're going to dive into all of it. So Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Hey man, I appreciate you having me. Obviously, the Pineda Group has made some major waves in business and entrepreneurship and investments and all those different sectors. And it's exciting because, as a leader, you get to change lives, right? And that's the beauty of what we do is, when you start to become successful and people start to see that, they start to ask like, how?
Yep.
Right. And part of like what I feel my job is, the whole Alpha Army idea is building alphas, not loud alphas, but servant leaders, people that go and they lead by example and they work hard and they are example to the community of what an alpha is supposed to be, not what is perceived of a negative connotation.
Yeah, I think that's huge because I think a lot of people have especially these days, a negative perception of what an alpha looks like, right? So
that's what we wear right here on our shirt. Like, okay, wait, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I love it. So how did that idea kind of get started?
The alpha.
Yeah, the Alpha Army idea. So
we have multiple verticals, everything from, solar, roofing, general contracting, mitigation, reconstruction, public adjusting. And we're kind of in that home services arena. And we've built multiple businesses in those avenues, all producing at 7 and 8 figures. And so as we were bringing this together, we realized really what our job is to build sales and leadership.
Okay. And
the idea of the alpha is not something that means that you're this top dog and you're an asshole and no one wants to be around you, which is kind of the connotation. It's negative. It's more of the leader that is saying, hey, I'm willing not only to show you by what I do, but help you and help you get wherever you're at now and help you gain your momentum so you can be there with me.
Got it.
And so that's where the alpha kind of came from. It's just a representation of all of our efforts combined in building that army of alphas in their hearts, in their minds, in their spirit, to go out and really, take control of their own lives, their own future, success, family, all of those things.
Got it. Love it. So before we dive into a bunch of other stuff that I have a question lined up in terms of questions for you, how'd you get started? So walk us through your story and all that good stuff.
So I was, made me think back.
Yeah.
So I was 22 years old. I just finished college playing football and
what position?
I was a receiver. I played slot receiver, some running back, and I wasn't the fastest guy, but I could I ran good routes. I blocked well. I did my things.
What was your 40 time?
40 time was like a 4.6, 4.7.
It's not bad.
That was like at my best.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So it wasn't. I wasn't the fastest guy. There was guys running 4.2s, 4.3s.
Of course,
and it was like they're smoking me. So I knew I wasn't going to have a future in football. And when football season was over, I was just sitting around at home smoking weed, playing video games, right?
Yep.
My mom's like, dude, like you got to get, And so she handed me a newspaper article, and it was circled with it says sales job, call now, right? This is back when people fucking read the newspaper, right? So I looked at this thing and I'm like, damn, okay. So I called them up. I went in for an interview. They said, you're too young for the in-home sales position. You don't have any experience, but we do have a canvassing position, door-to-door canvassing. And so I'm like, hey, whatever. My mom says I need a job. I'm down. Just sign me up, right? Let's get it, whatever. So I get in there, and I remember when I'm sitting down in this little rinky-dink office. The company was massive, but the Vallejo office where I came from was like their shitty office. And so I remember sitting down in this office, and the manager at the time, the hiring manager, and he gave this whole speech about the onboarding process and, getting started. And he said, Dan, you can be and have anything you could ever want in this life if you really work extremely hard and put your head down and stay motivated and fight through all the adversity. You can literally have financial freedom from this opportunity. And no one had ever said that to me, because where I came from, it's a ghetto, right? So you're either slinging drugs, you're in jail, or you're on your way to one of those. And that's just what it was where I grew up. So hearing that for the first time, it was like, okay, maybe it's possible.
Yep.
Right. So I took the door-to-door thing and I went all in. Like I went as hard as I could for every single day. And that was really what got me started. And having that success in door-to-door led to leadership, led to, moving up in the ranks of that company, which was 9 offices across the Western states, and became their number one guy over and over and over again, and their top manager and all those kind of things. And then eventually into entrepreneurship, where I became, owning my own business and building and all that kind of stuff.
Love it. So walk me through those first 3 months. How long did it take you to really get comfortable with sales, with talking to people? Or did you always have a little bit of natural sales ability, or did you have to really work at it?
That's a good question. So everyone is a little bit different, right? So some people have more of a natural, they're not afraid.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It's it's the fear, because I think anyone can be a decent salesperson. It's a lot of people have that idea that a salesperson is naturally extroverted, they're loud, they're personable, but it's really the people who can get over the fear of talking to somebody
it's
and having
the fear.
that. Yeah,
because you take someone who you think is an introvert and you sit them in a one-on-one setting, and you have a conversation okay, you can actually talk.
Yeah. Our best sales guys at all of Pineda company, they're all, I would consider extroverted introverts, right? They're not the big loud guys, kind of similar to if I think of Andy Elliott and your squad, right? So I would almost put a lot of our sales guys almost on a different side of the spectrum, but they're great one-on-one, talking to people, having conversations, and they crush it, right? So, and I'm sorry, I don't want to do too much of a tangent,
there's a difference between that motivational speaker type of approach and educator versus the one-on-one sales approach.
Yep.
Right. So I do a lot of speaking because I've grown into that, starting to give meetings in my sales guys, and then that became bigger, and then eventually it's stages. And that's the natural progression for guys that want that pathway. But if you're comfortable in a one-on-one and you can understand a sales process and the psychology of sales, then you can have success. You don't have to be this loud, energy source, right? I mean, energy is very important in sales.
Of course.
Right? You have to have good energy. You have to be able to attract. People want to, they buy from people that they like. So you have to have a good energy when in any sales transaction. But you don't have to be like an Andy Elliott, as an example, to be successful in life.
Absolutely. I agree. And so back to my question, how long did it take you to really
get comfortable?
Or do you remember a light bulb moment where I'm okay, I can do this?
There's been so many light bulb moments. And actually I would say there's more moments where I thought in my mind, I can't do this.
Yeah, of course.
Right. There was more times where I was like, damn, I don't know if I can do this. Then I can do this. Right.
Totally.
And it was those moments where when I had the fear and the doubt in my mind, if I was able to do this, and I said, you know what? There's people that are successful doing this. This is not rocket science. I'm not splitting an atom. I'm not curing cancer here. This is, I know if I work hard and I'll get through those no's and I'll get to those yeses. And that's what I just kept telling myself, and to get through that. And in the first 3 months, that's the biggest attrition, in door-to-door, is those first 3 months. Any sales, really.
Of course, yeah. If you usually, once people make it past those first 3 months, I know in our companies and just in sales in general, that's when there's the most turnover. The people just figure I can't do this, and they give up. But if you make it past that learning period, and you have a little bit of success, and you learn, and you keep the same systems and processes, because I think that's what helped me in my sales career too, was I just said the same thing the same way every single time. So that way, if I said, okay, I might have lost somebody in this portion of my pitch or my discovery phase, whatever, I can now go diagnose it. And that's where a lot of people, I think new salespeople, they say they don't have a process and don't have the systems, and that's what messes them up a lot.
You hit the nail on the head. And when we onboard a new rep, right? Everybody gets the same pitch.
Yep.
Right? And you can tell the ones that take that presentation and memorize it and they have it down within a day, and the ones that just try to wing it.
Yep.
And the ones that try to wing it don't succeed. It's not about being a bad salesperson. It's a system and a process. And if you don't understand how important processes are in business and in the sales cycle, it's very difficult to be successful.
Totally.
Even if you're a naturally gifted salesperson, which I would say maybe I had some gifts in there,
sure.
but I believed in the system. Actually, I have a story about that where I was struggling for a little bit. My production was slipping. Okay. Mm-hmm. It was it was a rocket ship at the beginning because I was just working my ass off, right? I was busting it. I was like, if
just brute force.
If there's 10 people in the room and they have 8, I need to get 10. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm very competitive. So that's another part of sales and being competitive. Sure. So anyway, I'm just naturally competitive. So I want to always be at the top. And I remember that my production slipped down. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me what was going on. Like, why are my sales struggling right now? What is happening? And I went to my manager and said, I can't figure out what I'm doing. He said, role play with me, right? So we pitched. He said, dude, you're skipping step 3, you're skipping step 4. I mean, what do you expect? And I'm like, I've been doing this for like 6 months already.
Like, I know it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and he said, Dan, take the pitch and just go to the door and read it. And I'm like, oh my God, like really? Like go to the door and read the script? I was like, you know what? Okay. I've tried everything else. Brute force ain't seem to be working here. Let's try that. So I took the script to the door and I just, hey, glad to catch you home. My name's, and I did that and literally the person signed up first one.
Yep.
I'm like, this is like, it's not Dan's way. It's not Ryan's way. It's not Andy's way. It's the process. And if you put pressure on the process, you get to put less pressure on yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the same thing in business too, right? Like these very successful companies, they all have systems, processes, and if you just follow the same framework of these other businesses, the chances of you being successful is very much higher than it would have been if you just go out and try to wing it, right? And last thing that I'll say about like the process is one thing that we tell a lot of our reps too is like, dude, the best actors in the world, the ones that like can improv, that can like add their own spin to things, first thing they do first is memorize the script. They know that script inside and out, and they know what the other person's gonna say, that they're their counterpart in that movie. And then now at that point, they're able to add their own spin, their personality to it. But you have to know the script and the process first. Otherwise, you're not gonna win. So it's huge.
It's so important. Look, I always tell my guys, like, look, I'm not trying to reinvent water. Like this shit, it works just fine, you know? And you know, when you're talking about systems and processes, for me to build the company that we have and our team, I just copied.
Yeah.
I just took a company that we were successful in, that was a very big company that obviously had processes and systems down, and just duplicated it.
Exactly. And that's all any of these companies do, right?
That's what everybody does. And it's even down to an entry level position, especially in the sales sector, right? Like as a door-to-door knocker or over the phone sales or whatever it is, even down to that little position you don't think is important. It's so important to the life cycle of your career and learning that system and practicing and developing your skill set, and then learning how to duplicate that within yourself and other people. And now you're a leader.
Yep. And so that's actually a great segue into my next question for you. So a lot of people, and we see with our students and just entrepreneurs in general, right? So they typically have one skill. For you, it was sales. For a lot of our listeners, it's sales as well, right? Usually they have one skill, takes them to make like, you know, $250,000. And then we have what we call our next level. We call it the managed level, where now you have to take your skill and make it into a business. So how did you transition from, you know, being an individual contributor, crushing it, and to now creating a business out of it?
So there's a lot of factors there, because, you know, a business has multiple segments, right? You have the front end, you have your marketing, and you have your sales. That is paramount.
Of course.
But what's just as important is all the way on the backside, which is the back end. And every business looks a little bit different, but you have to know both. Like my first business failed. When I went off on my own and when I started building that thing, it failed because we could bring in revenue. We thought sales cures all, and it does to an extent. But if you don't understand the back end, especially in an industry like construction, where you've got jobs now all across the state, you've got all these things going on, a lot of moving parts, and it can spiral out of control quickly. So what I can say is the first step is you have to make a decision that you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to take on 100% of the responsibility and the liability and the consequence. Entrepreneurship is a very high level of responsibility. Being a salesperson, you are limiting your responsibility level.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
You turn and burn almost. Like you're on to the next one by the time like you close the deal and you move on. But as a business owner, like you're just about to say,
you can't. Yeah. You are the ultimate level of responsible, and you have to be willing to say, hey, I will go down with the ship. Right? And a lot of people, like sales guys, they don't want to go, oh, this company burned me, fuck, I'm going to the next one, or this company is going to, you know, they don't understand the full impact that an organization that's not well run it has on the entrepreneur. Right? And I've dealt with that early when I'm in my 20s, my mid 20s, when I first started, you know, building my own companies. And like, there was failure after failure after failure because I didn't know all the different pieces. So on one side, I'm like, hey, I don't need the product to sell it, right? I'm just gonna go sell and I'm gonna figure it out, right? That is an entrepreneurial mindset. But on the back end, it's, hey, you need to have just as many processes and procedures as you have for marketing and sales, you need to have for your back end. You need to have for your operations, your customer service, your financials, all of those aspects, your collections, all those different departments that play a heavy role in hand in the success of the organization. That all needs to be dialed in, because that will destroy you just as fast as you think you can sell and bring it in.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So anyone that's going into entrepreneurship, it's the highest level of responsibility, but you also have the upside of reward. It's a pendulum, right? So little risk as a sales guy, your reward is the commissions that you make, which can be massive. Sure.
Yeah. You can, there are several millionaire salespeople
100%
in tons of different industries. So you can definitely do it, but it's a whole lot, like I think what you're about to say is on the other side of the pendulum, when you're as an entrepreneur, the upside is just way more significant. Right. You can sell your business, you can exit for a multiple, you can do all kinds of, there's more opportunity.
Literally
as an entrepreneur.
Everything in life is a pendulum. I was actually talking to Andy. So we rode up here on the private jet with Andy and an Elliott group, and you know, we're not the same company, right? We just tie together because we have a lot of the same belief systems in, you know, sales processes and training and that stuff. And it was a great conversation with him, and we were talking about that. It's like, you know, what you're willing to risk is what you're willing to receive as a reward. And right now, his big kick is his fitness.
Yeah.
Right. And makes me feel fucking fat all the time.
Yeah, dude, the guy's like, jacked. Yeah.
Dude, the guy's shredded, right? Yeah. He's in his 40s. And it's like, you have no excuse now. Right. And so we went to the gym this morning. We're at Lions Lair over there.
Dragon's Lair?
Dragon's Lair.
Yeah. I love that gym.
Dragon's Lair. Met Flex, dope dude. Did a little quick podcast with him too for a second. And
nice.
And like, dude, the gym is sick. But I was with Andy and his personal trainer, right? And he's like, Dan, I'm gonna take you through this workout. And I'm just destroyed, right? Destroyed. And every workout was so intense, and everything was like back straight, chest out, right?
Perfect like form.
You're like, you have a penny right here, and you're trying to squeeze that penny. We're doing this chest thing, and like at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, like that's what it takes though. But that level of sacrifice and pulling that pendulum all the way back is why it swings the other way, and you get jacked in your 40s, and everybody's following you.
Totally, yeah.
Right?
I think like an easy way to look at it is like, dude, on the other side of pain is that success for everything, right? So yeah, obviously the harder that the thing is to do, the more worth it usually is for that person, the greater the reward. And that's why there's very few people who decide to be an entrepreneur, because the risk is so high, or the pain of failure can be so high as well. So it's difficult for sure.
I mean, what I can say though is that anyone can do it.
Oh, for sure.
Just like anyone can be successful at sales, anyone can be successful as an entrepreneur and open up and run a relatively successful business. It's not impossible. You just have to be ready to go through the pain.
Totally. And I look at, so even our students, so we have our event going on, and they're not, a lot of them are very, very smart, but it's not the smartest people who succeed. It's people who take the most action. Yep. And so I know I personally, like I'd like to think I'm moderately intelligent, but I'm not the smartest guy, but we took the most action. Same thing with Ryan, you know, we take action, and that's what helps us succeed. So right now, what's your employee headcount at?
We have, I think we have 80 on payroll.
Nice. And what's the split? Is it majority sales guys? Is it guys and girls?
It's about 50-50.
Okay.
So 50% sales, 50% operations, and project managers and finance.
And is that still in the construction industry, or what industries are you operating in?
That's all it's all the same. So we run it out of one hub. So we're based in Phoenix.
Yeah.
We are in multi-states. Right now we're actually nationwide on a virtual sales, solar sales program, which allows people to just stay at home, dial some, the deals and make the same commission as guys that are going inside of homes and making those big solar commissions. So that's cool. But our primary function is in Phoenix, and we do claims management for contractors, for homeowners, and we're a construction company, and all that stuff gets managed out of one hub.
Okay, nice. And then rough estimate on like what's your top line revenue every year or last year?
Last year was about 25 million.
Nice.
This year we're projecting 50 to 70. Our goal was, try to hit that 100 mark this year. It's all about, like, that's where the systems are so important, right? Every little setback that happens, it just slows that progress down. And I'm a guy that has very high ambition. So like, I'm very hard on myself too, right? And that's a big part of it. Like, it's just back down to the new canvasser. I can tell when someone's going to be successful when I have someone that comes to me. I had a new guy come to me recently, and he was like, I can see him almost tearing up. He's been with us for 3 weeks. He's trying his ass off. I can see it. I know he is. And he's not having the success. Okay. And he's like in tears. And I'm like, Luke, you can do this, man.
Yep.
You can do this. You're 18 years old. Like, I know it's hard. I know it's grueling. It's 110 degrees outside in Phoenix, and we're knocking doors.
Yep.
Okay. I understand that. Right. But you just got to hold in. Don't quit before the light bulb goes off. Don't quit before you figure it out. And the next week we were running a blitz up in Flagstaff, like kind of Flagstaff, Prescott, like those cooler areas, right?
And for people who don't know, what's a blitz?
A blitz is like where you take a team and you shotgun out to like a random little area. We got a fat Airbnb. We did 2 at the same time.
Nice. Okay,
right?
that's fun.
Fat Airbnb. The guys have fun. I make sure it's a dope spot, right?
Yeah.
And the guys have some fun, and it's like all day grind, right? And he popped off. It was his moment to it changed his life, right? He went from making not really making any money, boom, a $3,000 paycheck the next week.
Yeah.
And he's like,
that's life-changing stuff.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
Right? Especially for that age, right? You can't go back and get a job at Target.
No way. Like your mindset completely shifts. Like, and I feel like every salesperson has that moment where like they either get the commission check, they close their first decent sized deal, and they're like, oh, okay. Like like I can actually close more deals. The more I work, the more money I make. So that's huge for him. So that's awesome. And so where's he at today? Is he still crushing it, or?
Yeah, no, he is. He's again, cause sales, right? Once you get that taste of it, you know you can, right? Being consistent now is the next level. And so what I teach guys is that your consistency and your mindset, because we talk about the 4 pillars of becoming a superstar salesperson.
Yep.
Okay. And the first one is attitude.
Yep.
Then you have your presentation. Then you have overcoming objections. And then you have rapport. Right? That is the order and sequence. Some people are natural at rapport, right? Just they're good at talking to people, right? That's great, but without and you can be able to slay any objection that comes your way, and you have the best presentation on the planet. But if you don't have a good attitude, you're done.
Totally.
Right? So attitude's always number one. And when we think about what does that mean? Well, I have a good attitude. I showed up to work and I'm excited to be here and I'm ready to go. Okay. Yeah, but what happens when it's 4 o'clock? You've knocked on doors all day in 110 degrees and you got doors slammed in your face. You have 0. How easy is it to say, you know what? Fuck today.
I'll come back tomorrow.
I'll come back tomorrow, make it happen, instead of pushing through that last couple hours, right? And fighting until the whistle blows, that last door, it's getting dark, the last door you're knocking on. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me where I pushed it. It was like, I'm so frustrated today, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going and keep going.
And that last one.
And that last door, I'm like, this is the last one, boom. And that's the deal, right? Where half the team was already home in bed. That's the difference maker. That's what I mean by attitude. It's easy to have a good attitude when everything's going well. Character is defined by what you do when no one's looking. that is when the pressure meets the pipe, right? Like, are you going to burst, or are you going to fold up and give up and you quit? And just like you said earlier, most people quit right before they're going to see that success.
Agreed. And yeah, what you touched on is so huge with sales, because like you have to have the same level of energy on the first conversation as you do the last conversation. That's where I see a lot of our sales team, you know, that like with us, we're blessed that we operate virtually. And so we're able to, a lot of the leads come to us. I call a lot of we have like a setter closer model. A lot of our closers, we call them like fat cat closers, right? Everything just gets booked on their calendar. They close deals, whatever. But still we see, like when I used to listen to calls, or our sales managers, whenever they listen to the calls, right? The very first demo that they take of the day, it's awesome. And the last one, they either skip steps or they forget, and they are sacrificing the deals that they could have won because they don't show up with the same energy, right? So that's huge, I think, for anyone listening that's like in sales. You have to have the same energy all throughout. And like
you can't be a good salesperson if you can't bring a high level of energy all day long. You can't.
Yep.
And it's not fair to you. It's not fair to the client who you're trying to offer a service to, and you bring in the last bad customer that you just dealt with to that customer. Like you're going to screw yourself, and you're gonna,
agreed.
So it's 100% attitude driven when it comes to sales.
Absolutely. So what's the plan for and how did you? So you mentioned you're trying to like about 3x this year. Right. So how are you able to implement that? Is it just, again, talking to more people? Are you guys implementing different systems? Like what's the strategy?
All the above, right? So I went to a conference recently and Brandon Dawson was speaking at that one. And he put up on the screen this slide which talked about the different levels of an organization up to the platform company. And that was like a light bulb for me, right? There's different levels, right? The light bulb for me is I want to be a platform company and sell this thing, right? That's the idea.
Yep.
No more living the in the grind, but working on the business, not in it, right? And so, in those different levels, as you grow your business, there's things that have to be in place in order for it to be a sellable organization. And really, sellable also means running efficiently without you, growing and developing leaders and giving people an opportunity to step into those roles that of responsibility. So it's empowering everyone on your team to grow to the next level, right? So for us and our mission and how we're going to do it is a few things. Obviously, technology, better systems and processes, putting a lot of pressure on the leadership team to grow to the next level, and recruiting the masses. And that's one of the biggest things for us. And that's why, for the podcast and for social media and really ramping that side of it is because, when you have a good opportunity and you can change people's lives, you want everyone to be a part of it. Recruiting for a sales company is the most important.
Yeah. I would say for any company, but absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it depends on the kind of company. Like there's big layoffs happening.
Because those companies, though, they get millions and millions and millions of dollars of funding, then they hire a ton, and then they don't account. They think the money's just going to keep coming in, and they're not even profitable yet. So then all of a sudden, the funding that they got, they like, oh shoot, like I actually don't need a chief happiness officer. I don't need like 30 people in HR or these other, they would consider like non-vital positions, right? And so that's huge. But I think in terms of any business needs high quality talent, and you're going to be limited by the talent that you have.
That's it.
Yeah. And we talked about this at our MVP day yesterday for a lot of our students, where great people and decent processes can do way more than great processes and very average people, in my opinion, because they think critically, they can grow a business, they're empowered to make decisions, all that type of stuff that you mentioned. But yeah, so how are you recruiting right now? Is it obviously through social media? What other channels are you using to find people?
Every possible channel we can. We'll pull up on you while we're at the gym,
Yeah.
But the key is having people that focus on it.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of it being like, hey, someone posts an ad on Craigslist or whatever, Indeed, and try to monster and try to pull somebody.
Yep.
it's like literally having a department that all their job is to do is to recruit people to the company.
Yeah, recruiting sales is too.
That's it. It's 100%. And it's just like these events. Like these events don't happen without ticket sales.
Yep.
You need salespeople bringing people in. And so it was the same thing. And for us, so we have full-time recruiters. We have 2 that are managing that department, and they do a great job, right? They're high energy. They're salespeople. They're higher energy. They bring a lot of excitement, and they know how to explain the program. And if they catch you wherever you're at, if you're at a fast food drive-through and they see you and you seem sharp, boom, right? So like, and it's always recruiting nonstop, because that recruiting, every new person that comes in brings a new energy into the company. You're also able to let go of the hostage takers, right? The people that try to say, well, I'm not going to sell if I don't get my way, or whatever type weird things that a lot of the sales guys think that they have all this power. And you're able to get rid of those cancers, right? And to build a strong culture and community, and then just always focusing on that recruiting arm and just bring people in all the time.
So what's like your interview process like?
So it goes through layers. So like someone, let's say they answer our ad, one of our people will call them, or at first it's like an automated text thing back and forth, right? They get through the funnel, then we call them, have them come in for an interview. They meet at kind of an initial interview, see if they're even, viable for it. Can be a fit.
Vibe check.
Then they jump to the next layer, which is maybe one of the managers, something like that. And if they pass that, then they go to maybe a VP. We'll have that conversation with them to bring them in. And then if they meet all those requirements, we give them a shot.
Nice. And what's your training process like right now for a new sales rep?
So new sales. So if it's door to door, let's say
we'll call it door to door.
You're going to have 3 days in class, and that's like a deep dive into our presentation, the psychology of sales, the who, what, and why we say what we say, the job description, product knowledge, all those kind of things that we deep dive into that. And then 2 days are in the field training with team leaders, and that's continuous, and we wean you off of that, as the time goes. But training is always. So like a lot of companies, I don't know why they don't do it anymore, but like the company I came from, and I'm so glad I came from a good company, because we met every single day.
Yeah.
Our sales meetings were every single day. And that would bring energy, that would bring excitement, we would talk about the numbers before, we'd put pressure on ourselves, we would role play and practice and all those things that are vital to the sales process. Where I've seen now, everyone's like a pirate. Like everyone's on their own. Like no one is meeting at the office. Like once a month they might get together, but everyone's kind of doing their own thing. You sell, great. You don't, whatever. Like I don't like that environment.
Yeah.
I'm a team guy, and that's So if you're gonna build a sales team or be a part of one, like make sure you're a part of a team. Like you need to bounce that off. It's just like when we went to the gym this morning.
Yeah.
I'm over here like everybody's ripped. I'm like, fuck, man. I gotta, I'm gonna have to step up. I'm gonna have to push myself, because like it's that environment.
And you get to see what the winners are doing too, right? So you get to take something of like this highly successful sales rep, and now I can go apply that to my pitch, or I can you get to learn what's working, you get to bounce ideas off each other. And I'm sure that kind of played a role with like your sports background too, right? The best athletes, the best teams, they all have the same practice regimen. They're all, doing, the 2-a-day workouts all the way down to just the film sessions, all that type of stuff. And it's just ingrained in them. It's every day you're practicing, every day you're studying game tape. So applying those same structures to your sales organization, or just your organization in general, I think is huge, because you may, as a leader, you may think that your team's doing what you think they're doing, but then, there have been times where I'll go and I'll ask questions and I'm like, how do you not know this? And I'm like, and that's a gap in our process, and that's our fault, right? As a business owner. So then that's when we have to implement these daily huddles. Like, hey, this is our mission statement, everything. And you have to keep on banging it into your team's head. And I know that sounds kind of negative, but it's not. I think you need to be able to have that repetition, so that way your team buys into everything that you do.
Look, if they're not bought in, they're not going to perform. And at the end of the day, like you want on your team, you want people that want to be there. They
for sure.
Not have to be. No one's forcing you. I don't want to pull your arm to fucking change your life. And where I would used to do that, right?
Yeah.
The Messiah complex, where like you want to
help everybody.
You want to help everybody, and some people just don't want it. They just don't. They're okay and comfortable with where they're at. And you know, one of the hardest thing as an entrepreneur is to say no sometimes. Like I can't help this person. I got to move on, right? And you have to be around people that are also trying to get to the next level. You have to be around those people because that's the only way you elevate.
Agreed.
Or else you get stuck.
Absolutely. So when you were early on in your sales career, or even now, like who are the biggest like sales influences that have helped your career? Whether that be in books, authors, speakers.
Yeah. So like I do these books on tape, right? Because when I'm working out, I'll listen to, like right now I'm listening to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You know, I'll do that all the time. And I like to study greatness. I like to study guys like Ed Milet. I like to study like Andy Elliott's, right? Who are just absolutely crushing it. I like to study those guys that are at those levels way beyond where I am, because, you know, it's the same thing. You copy what works and then you implement it. You know, so like last week or 2 weeks ago, we were at a conference in Houston, and I was a speaker there, but the first speaker was Rene Rodriguez.
Oh yeah.
And it was incredible because he brought someone from the stage up onto you know, from the crowd onto the stage, and he said, give me your life's, like, he kind of gave, like, give me your why, what you know. And the guy couldn't figure out how to say it, right? And as you can tell, he's like, English wasn't his first language. He's, you know, and anyway, he gave this whole story about his mom and how this is the moment in his life where he realized like his mom was everything to him, and willing to just do whatever. It was a thing. Like they accused him of stealing something at school, or hitting this girl, or peeing on something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. But anyway, after he said this whole thing, Renee literally repeated it right back, like verbatim, the entire story the guy said, and turned it into a sales pitch and said, that's how you sell. He took a whole story this guy just said as a story and then replayed it into a sales pitch. And, you know, for those that are new into sales, like being able to regurgitate successful people is key. I was driving down from Vallejo, California, and I was a new manager down in San Jose. It was an hour and 10-minute drive in the morning. And then I would go work out, and then I would drive back.
Wow.
Okay. All day, and canvas all day. Okay. And during that drive, I would play Jim Rohn. I would play, you know, Zig Ziglar's, all these guys, right? I would play that. And here's what was crazy. I would go into the meeting and I would just repeat the shit I heard. And it was amazing the influence that it could create. Because there's very few people that are actually listening to these people and applying it. Right. And I'm like, no, when I hear something that I like, I'm going to apply it immediately. Yeah. And that was a big difference. You know, if you go and you're your new rep, you get hired by this company, they have processes and systems, and they're going to teach you how to be successful because it's a win-win. If you're successful, they're successful. So they have every incentive to make you, that's why I love sales. Every incentive for you to be successful. They're going to give you the tools. If you don't use it, you fail.
On you. Yeah.
Right. But if you just apply it, it works like magic. And I learned that early on. So I always I study the greats, and I copy them. I mimic them. And there's no better form of flattery than mimicking.
Imitation.
Imitation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, even our speakers on stage now, I mean, with us, we mimic, like, our comparables are the Tony Robbins. They are the Grant Cardones who are doing these big, 5,000, 10,000 person events. Right. That's like where we're trying to get to. And so we're just
like, how many people are at this event?
So we have like 1,100. So
see, and that's a solid crowd, right? That's you walk into this, it's a great event.
And the only difference with us and say them, we try to do an event every quarter. Right. And I know, for example, like Cardone, they're doing events every week, but they're smaller events, right? They do one big, what is it called? Growth Con, a year. right? We are trying to do this every single quarter and then have smaller workshops involved too, right? So it's a big undertaking to try to do this every time, right? But the team's getting so good, right? We're on like our 5th one or so far, and
it's a lot of work.
Oh, it's a ton of work, but it's so rewarding, and like seeing all the connections that get made, there's just so much value that gets transferred. You know, we get to have people like you on the podcast. We're able to just build relationships and generate the value that wouldn't be here otherwise. So it pays for itself tenfold every single time. So it's been great.
No, look, we've been here for a day and a half, and it's been incredible, right?
Yeah.
No, these events are they're underrated. A lot of people don't, and for me, and I was the same way. I was like, I'm not going to I don't need to hear these guys speak.
Yeah.
I'm already building my right. But it's not just about the speakers necessarily, even though there's an incredible amount of value there.
Sure.
It's about the connections.
It's the relationships.
It's the relationships, and you never know. You like everyone says, man, you're one relationship away from a life-changing experience and opportunity. And you know, hopefully I could be on the stage with you guys at some point down there. You know, and that's why we get out here and we do this, and we meet people and share the stories.
Love it.
Right? These events you have to go. You have to, even if you can't afford like the VIPs and the MVPs, like I don't know how much a general admission ticket is here.
It's like $1,000.
$1,000. Like the amount of value that you get from that $1,000 is 100x what you're paying for these things. And people don't, because it's hard, right? We don't want to part with our money. We work so hard and you know, for our money to spend it $1,000, which we don't see, let's say, an immediate return on. It's a hard thing to do. And so I big respect for the event planners and the ticket sales and to drive the production of an event like this. This is major. It's a lot of work, you know, but you guys are doing an outstanding job. It's clear. You can see based on the crowd that's out there, everybody's engaged. And you got a great lineup of speakers who are going to provide some really good value, which, you know, if you're not going to these conferences, you need to start, because, you know, even for me as an entrepreneur with an 8-figure organization, I still come and learn and to grow and and just be in proximity with people that are, you know, a lot of them doing even, you know, farther ahead, I should say, than even where I'm at.
Oh, for sure. And the fact that like everybody paid to be in the room, right? That's a different caliber of person than say some of these free meetups or, you know, any of this other stuff, because everybody there is in the same mindset. And it comes back to what we talked about with teams, and, you know, just getting around people who are like-minded is so huge, especially as an entrepreneur. And like, even if you're a high performing W2, you know, a salesperson, whatever, you know, you have to be in the right rooms. But, you know, I know we got to jump pretty soon here. So
dude,
last thing, man, like what do you want to leave the people with? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been doing this for over a decade, okay, in direct sales and door-to-door and in-home sales and building companies, and now we're pivoting to sell and do all these things. But, you know, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great, right? You have to, and, you know, sales is freedom. Sales is freedom. You're not limited and trapped by someone telling you this is how much you're worth. Your worth is based on your activity and the action that you take every single day.
Bomb dropped. End the podcast. Dan, where can people find out more about you or follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram, dan.zrihen, Zrihen. You can follow the Alpha Army podcast. You can find me there. You know, again, we're here to help whatever level you're at. If you're a sales guy, entrepreneur, you know, there's all the levels to the game, and we're here to help as many people as we can in this life and change the world, man.
Dude, amazing. Thanks so much for your time.
Hell yeah. Great question.